we have Psyche, who will tell us the story of Eros and Psyche.
Psyche was the daughter of a king and a queen. Actually, she was one of 3 daughters, but Psyche was different. Psyche was so beautiful that she was said to be even more alluring than Aphrodite herself. When Aphrodite heard this, she was furious. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, was supposed to be more beautiful than anyone, god or mortal. So Aphrodite instructed her son, Eros, to place one of his golden arrows into Psyche's heart, causing her to fall in love with the most horrid of monsters. Eros obeyed his mother, but before he could do this, Psyche stirred and he accidentally touched the arrow to his own heart. It was too late. Eros had fallen in love with Psyche. When Aphrodite heard about this unfortunate mistake, she was raging with fury. "You have failed me, and that horrible girl will pay the price," she said. "She will not be married, and she will be nothing but a disappointment." Time went by, and Psyche's parents could not understand why no one had asked to marry her. Psyche's father went to see the oracle of Apollo, who said, "Take Psyche to the top of the rocky hill next to the river and leave her there." The oracle said that she would be married to a serpent. Although this broke their hearts, Psyche's parents, the king and queen, did what the oracle had told them to. Psyche was afraid, but she was confident. After she reached the top of the hill, she felt the wind lift her and carry her off. Sometime during the long and gentle ride, Psyche fell asleep, and when she woke, she was in the middle of a lush meadow surrounding a gorgeous castle. Voices she heard told her that the castle she saw was indeed hers, and that she should make herself comfortable, that this was her new home. So Psyche went inside the castle, bathed, and sat down at a table to eat. This table was set by the invisible hands of her invisible servants. When it grew dark, Psyche heard another voice. This one said, "I am your husband. There is no need to fear me, but you must not see me." Psyche did not know who her husband was, but she was tired from a long journey and fell asleep in comfort. When she woke, her new husband was gone. The next night, the same thing happened. Psyche had not seen or met her husband, and she grew lonely. She was with him at night, but during the day she had only the voices in the castle to keep her company. One day, she asked her husband if her sisters could come visit her. He was reluctant, but he agreed to have them come. When the sisters came, they immediately grew jealous of Psyche. They wanted to be served by invisible servants too. They wanted all the luxuries their sister had. When they left, Psyche filled their hands with jewels and gold, for she had an abundance, but they were not satisfied. Psyche was still lonely, so she begged her husband to invite her sisters back for another visit. Again, he was reluctant, but he gave his consent. This time, when the sisters came, they had a plan. They made Psyche confess that she had never actually seen her husband and really didn't know who he was. "He is an evil serpent who will someday turn on you," they said. "Tonight, when it grows dark, keep a lantern near you and have a knife ready so that you can see him and kill him instantly." Psyche was terrified, so she took her sisters' advice. That night, when it grew dark and her husband was sleeping, she lit the lamp and caught a glimpse of her sleeping husband. What she saw astounded her, for there before her was not a serpent at all, but Eros, son of Aphrodite and the fairest of all gods. Just as she realized this, a drop of hot oil fell onto Eros' shoulder and he woke. Seeing what she had done, he immediately fled, and Psyche was suddenly sitting in the dirt where her castle had once been. Eros went to his mother, Aphrodite, who healed his burns. When Eros told her about what had happened, she set out to make Psyche miserable. Meanwhile, Psyche was wandering around and praying to the gods, trying to get help, but none of the gods would do anything to make Aphrodite their enemy. When Aphrodite found Psyche, she dumped a very big pile of brains in front of her. "You have betrayed my son. You will regret doing so," she said. "You are to sort every seed by nightfall." Psyche was determined, but she could not sort the seeds fast enough. Eros saw her desperately trying to complete the task and took pity on her. He ordered the ants in the fields to help her, and with the help, she completed the task. But when Aphrodite returned, she told her that she knew she had not completed the task alone. So Aphrodite had another test for her. "Go down there near the riverbank," she said, "where the bushes grow thick, are sheep with fleeces of gold. Go fetch me some of their shining wool." Psyche did not know how to fulfill Aphrodite's absurd request, but she went down to the riverbank. Her mind was flooded with a feeling of great despair, and she saw the river and longed to throw herself into it, just to end her misery. Before she could do this, she heard a voice coming from the reeds. This was the voice of the compassionate river god, who said, "As long as the sheep are under the influence of the rising sun, they burn with a cruel rage to destroy mortals with their sharp teeth. But when they are driven to the shade, you will find the woolly gold sticking to the bushes and trunks of the trees." So Psyche barely succeeded, but Aphrodite told her once again she would not have triumphed alone. Psyche's next task was the most dangerous of all. She was to travel to Tartarus, to Persephone's palace, and retrieve some of her beauty. Tartarus is guarded by Cerberus, the three-headed dog, so her first test was getting around the awful creature. When Psyche reached Persephone's palace, she persuaded her to donate some of her beauty. Persephone was willing, and Psyche managed to leave Tartarus safely. On her way back, she grew very curious as to what was actually in the box Persephone had given her. Her efforts had not made her any prettier, and she thought she could use some of the beauty herself. She opened the box and found nothing there, but suddenly she collapsed and fell into a deep sleep. By now, Eros was healed and longing for Psyche more than ever, so he set out to look for her and found her unconscious in the middle of a grassy field. He woke her with the slight touch of an arrow and put the sleep back in Persephone's box, scolding her for her curiosity. Psyche delivered the box to Aphrodite, while Eros went to see Zeus, king of the gods. Eros persuaded Zeus to keep Aphrodite from causing Psyche any more trouble, and Zeus agreed. Eros and Psyche were officially wed, and Psyche was made immortal. Eros, or Cupid, has always represented love, and in English, Psyche means soul. When Eros and Psyche were married, love and the soul reunited in a bond that could never be broken.